Again, it's Ponce here to talk to you guys about some more potential future balance changes, given that PB is sort of dead right now. Nothing going on with the whole holiday season thing, but it is a kind of a topic that I find both interesting and probably important, which is lethality. You guys all know lethality. It's the new armor pen thing. You don't need me to explain the whole system. But Riot has essentially conceded that lethality is probably not as good as it should be. Now, they haven't specified exactly what they're going to do to it, when they're going to do it, or really if it's going to happen at all. I mean, in theory, I don't see them not buffing lethality, which we'll talk about in a minute. The one thing that was mentioned in pseudo-specifics in the thread I was reading was talking about how they wanted it in, I think they said early 2017. So I imagine like sometime in January we'll start seeing potential lethality buffs. Although it may take a little while with the internal testing because, as the Riot person said, things, when he's changed basic systems and items and stuff, or, like stats like lethality, it tends to affect a large swath of champions all at once. So that's why I always typically find item balance changes more interesting than anything other than, as aside from, or as opposed to specific champion balance changes. But anyway, if I were to guess what they're going to do to it, I would think that they're going to make it so that lethality is somehow better early game, but leave the late game lethality numbers the same. So change the scaling, how that works somehow. They'll fiddle around with the numbers in that regard. This actually came up in the context, if I recall correctly, of a Talon balance thread or something, and so champions like Talon, who basically rush lethality items, are suffering it from the most. Whereas I don't mind it as much, for example, on Jarvan, because I tend to get lethality items later on, and by then it's already scaled up to the point where it's fairly decent. Actually, what I'm most concerned about is actually lethality red runes, because I was one of the few people that actually ran Arbor Pen Reds, the Arbor Pen Red runes in the previous seasons. Because when I play Jarvan, that's a niche thing. I don't want to get into the specifics of it. Typically has stuff to do with, whether or not your character has percent damage and stuff like that, and AD scaling and those sorts of things. But in any case, lethality runes are just abysmal, so I don't use them anymore. Or rather, the new version, the armor pen runes, because I've always found that runes typically are like an early game burst to the champion. And then later on, these minor numbers that runes tend to give you don't, they don't, well, you can get scaling runes, but the smaller numbers that they give are typically more so useful in the early game and less of a concern late game. And I didn't like taking that much of a hit early game to potentially be slightly better later when I don't really care about it. League of Legends, the importance of the early game. But in any case, yeah, like I said, I don't know what they're going to do to it. I doubt they'll address scaling, or lethality runes specifically, although they might get better in general. They may be worth looking at again. I'm not sure. As I said, for me personally, with what I play, since I tend to get, I'll get like a Ravenous Hydra first, and then I really like this item, by the way. It's a lethality item. Edge of Night. I think it's my favorite new item from this season. Anyway, it's got lethality on it, but I don't tend to get that until later, so... yeah, so there you have it, guys. No super specifics, but for those of you who really either play characters that prioritize lethality, or you just kind of like lethality, you have some potential buffs to most likely look forward to. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys around. I'll keep you posted on any specific details on this matter. Goodbye.